Hi guys, so this video is about how to be efficient on the computer. So there was a few things that your regional manager or your operations manager or sales manager might have went through. And I'm going to briefly cover them in a video so that you can at any stage go back and view specific items within this video. Number one is Google Calendar. So the concept behind Google Calendar is to add in, not to do items because that is in Asana, but to add in times in the day where you're not specifically at your desk, which for most people really shouldn't be too often. And thus you're adding where you are at different times so that if, for instance, I am going to be tomorrow attending sales drop-ins in the morning from 8 a.m. until 11 a.m. in Riverside, like so. And that would really help in terms of communication. It's a best practice at many different companies. Some of you sometimes might have to share individual, so that let's say drop-ins at Riverside, and let's say we were adding an address here, and let's say the sales manager was going to attend this as well. So you can share that event with specifically your manager. So I could put in my where here, I could add a little bit of a description, and then I add my guests here. So let's say I have Shane, and I could add him in there automatically. It's rare, but sometimes you might be all day at a specific item, but you don't necessarily want everything taken up all day. And you can add that in up here at the very, very top. So specifically, let's say for vacations, where you want to share your vacations with your manager, but you know that by sharing it all here means that if he has your calendar checked off, let's say Billy has his calendar checked off, I have Billy's calendar checked off, sorry, and Billy goes on vacation, it's more useful to have it just up here. So this is an all-day event, as can be seen all day. The last thing for calendars is that sometimes you might want to see what other people's calendars are. So let's say you are an account manager or let's say you're a regional manager and you want another regional manager to help you out with the training because something's after coming up at another school, something's after going wrong, and you really have to go to that school to make sure everything's okay, meaning that you can't attend or you can't do a certain training, for instance. So I could click here and I will see Billy's calendar here. And if I remove my calendar, a lot easier as well, just to see Billy's calendar. So that is Google Calendars, and for some people you can have Google Calendar synced up here. Personally, I like this, but I would say that's really up to yourself. If it is something your manager should be able to set it up for you, and it's essentially the exact same deal as Google Calendar, except obviously you can do it offline as well. The next thing is clean desktop, inbox, and downloads. So to be clear, this isn't major mandatory, but it is useful. So that at any stage, you want to be trying to keep that desktop and this downloads folder as clean as possible. So you guys aren't going to have too many files coming in and coming out. A lot's going to be more on your Google Drive. But just to be clear, trying to keep this as clean as possible. And if you do have a lot of stuff in your downloads, every now and then you can just create a folder and you can call it miscellaneous, and you can put a lot of different stuff in there, and that cleans it up again so that when you get new items coming in, what I've noticed over the years working with managers is that when they download stuff, they often seem to lose it or can't find it again. So I'll be careful of that. Again, as we are using Asana, that and Google Drive a lot more, that's not going to become as important. For the inbox, let me show you the mail here, and I'm going to do another video on usage for the phone. So the simple idea is to try to keep your inbox as clean as possible. And I do really strongly recommend this. I've noticed for people who don't do this, it does become a problem. They just lose track of stuff. Again, as we're using Asana, this isn't going to be as big of a deal. But I get in here every morning and I just start moving stuff into different folders. So this is, for instance, an email from Asana about a payment plan for everybody. So I'll read it very quickly. I'll add a quick reply. And then boom, it goes into a folder. My folder layout is probably a little bit more elaborate than most people's, but for instance, it would go into operations. The next thing is Google Drive. So for Google Drive, most of you, we're really going to try to ensure that you don't have many files. But I will just point that from the start of the year, we often envision certain things. By the end of the year, I know things change. So I would just say that if your Google Drive is getting messy, create folders for yourself. If you don't create folders, things get pretty messy. So you can create a folder up here, new folder, and that's just a side point. For Skype, I think everyone should be able to use Skype pretty easily, but just to be clear, if you aren't, I will just show you very, very briefly a couple of quick items. So change status. You can change your status at any stage to do not disturb. Do not disturb is better than the away status. Often many people will leave their Skype on overnight and will go straight to away. So it's 7:12 here in the morning. As you can see, most people are away. And those people are generally people who didn't close down their Skype, which is exactly what I do. That's fine. So you can change your status there to do not disturb if, for instance, you're doing interviews at a certain time. I would recommend not doing that continuously, though. Some people in previous years would have do not disturb on all the time, and it just sort of, it feels a little bit as if they're not being totally transparent with everything. That's not the best wording, but basically there's no need to have it on all the time. And then apart from that, I think most people know how to be adding, sharing messages and doing Skype video and so on. So your messages will obviously go down here at the very bottom. Note that at the very bottom as well, let me just make this a little bit smaller. We want to try to stay away from attaching files now that we're doing Asana, but sending video messages, the odd time, there's nothing wrong with that. I'm generally a fan of doing video messages where possible. And then when you make your calls, obviously generally try to use your video here. And this is how you would add multiple contacts to a call or to a specific message. So let's say I want to speak to Billy and Shane, create a group. I can message both of them, or I can video both of them there. That is Skype. There was another item mentioned, which is checklists. Checklists are pretty useful, as simple as that. So I would just say that if you've got an individual group of things that you need to get done, you can make that checklist in Asana. But let's say they're very, very small individual items that you can do very, very quickly. I will often create a checklist in a Google Sheet as a tab, and then I will delete that checklist. This is Christian, a regional manager. He's been working with us for a few years. I don't necessarily have a checklist here to reference, but funny enough, Christian has always been very good at checklists. So if you want to create a checklist, all you're doing is, let's say, I won't even really give an example. Let me see, let me think of an example. So let's say that we're trying to check off things that you quickly need to do for your IT setup to make sure that they're all in place. That was an example of a checklist that we did actually create. So we had then Skype, we had then Google Calendar, we had then so on. And a more specific example for yourself is, let's say you wanted to ensure that you brought all your gear to a training because for a couple of times in a row you forgot to bring all your gear to a training. So you can put down coaching bag, you can put down manual, you can put down school folder. Just put down a Y every time you check it off. Checklists, they're very, very useful for you, and that's how typically most efficient managers and franchises and so on, they operate. It's all based on checklists. Okay. I think that is looking pretty good. Yep, we'll leave it at that. I know there's a couple of more items such as computer screen sharing and troubleshooting. I will mention this screen sharing for people, and you can reference it if you want to use it. This is screen sharing, and the link was in the IT table. So here, once you go to this link, you would click on a new live event. And what we're doing right now is exactly one of these. You click on the event, you add the event there, you click on go live now. And once you click on go live now, it brings you to this screen. And on this left-hand side here, you have this, which will be a screen share. And that is where you could either share your full screen, which we're doing right now, or share a specific application window. And then you would essentially click on start broadcast, and it would start broadcasting. And then to end it, you click on stop broadcast, and you click on this red button up here, and then you are done. Okay, thanks guys.